Always great to have Dave Rubin on. He's, of course, a BlazeTV host of the Rubin Report and author of Don't Burn This Book, Thinking for Yourself in the Age of Unreason, which sounds like a terrible idea. It sounds like lots of work, Dave.
It's horrific. It will age you and exhaust you. You'll realize that everyone around you is a mindless drone. It's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
But still, I would say give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, this is one thing I want to talk to you about, because you're echoing, I think, a sentiment we talked a little bit about on radio today from Jordan Peterson. You did a tour with Jordan, and it was great, by the way. We saw it here in Dallas. And you guys, he talked on this clip with Tucker Carlson about the importance of truth no matter what the consequences are. Can you talk about this a little bit? Yeah,
it's really an extraordinary clip, and I did tour with Jordan for about a year and a half. We did about 120 shows in something like 20 countries. I saw this guy give a different hour-and-a-half lecture every night, and I mean, you know, as a public person, you go out and you give a talk. It's like one thing for somebody to give a 10-minute sort of canned talk. I try to give a slightly different talk all the time, but to give an hour-and-a-half lecture that really was expanding, I would say pushing and pulling his knowledge as far as he could take it every night. And then at the end, he'd say, you know, that's about as far as I can take it tonight. And then I would have the honor of being there the next night where he would pick it up from where he left. So it was really like, it was watching almost someone write a book, like chapter to chapter to chapter. But the specific moment on Tucker Carlson's show was really interesting, because what he was talking about was that in his early 20s, he decided to tell the truth, that he felt that telling the truth, no matter the outcome, is the best possible alternative. It doesn't mean that the truth will automatically lead you to something good or something that is painless or fortuitous or financially wonderful or anything.
Right.
But the truth in and of itself will be the best of all the options. That if you put out a lie, even if you think short term it's going to help you, it will still be worse than the truth. And what he really went on to say that I thought was the interesting part, and that's what we were discussing this morning, he said that in and of itself, telling the truth for the truth's sake, regardless of the outcome, is the ultimate expression of faith, because that is a leap of faith to say, I will tell the truth. I will tell the truth because I believe truth is important. That's not necessarily factually the best way to go about life at a granular level, right? Because you might be able to lie to a lot of people and get all sorts of success and manipulate all sorts of things. Obviously, that's not the way we would want to live, and that's not actually good, but a lot of people could think that.
Sure.
But the leap of saying, I will tell the truth, and no matter what happens at that point, it will be better than all the alternatives. That's a pretty powerful statement, and it's religious in nature, actually.
So, because it's really an interesting point, and I struggle to find anyone who I would talk to who would say it wasn't true, right? Like it's you know, Jordan has a way like that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he just says something that you're like, 100% of people agree with what he just said.
Yeah.
They don't put it into practice, but 100% would agree with it.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with omission on this scale, right? Like, let me give you an
It's
example.
a great question.
Give you an example of this,
great
because
question.
Lynn Cheney this weekend, she gets thrown out of leadership. She would say her truth is Donald Trump was uniquely terrible past, you know, about this January 6th thing in the election. She voted for him twice.
Yeah.
But, you know, she said the way he handled this was terrible. I have to speak out about it at every single turn. And there was a pushback on the side of Republicans who said, look, we might even agree with you on a lot of this stuff. But like, we need to move on. We need to do other things. Stop talking about this one thing all the time. Should she have just omitted this? How do you deal with the real world?
So it's a lie by omission, or, well, let's put it even just at a very personal level. It's like, I can't sit here and tell you that I tell the truth every possible second, all day long, at every moment. Someone might ask me how my day's going. Oh, it's going fine. Well, it might be that something horrible is happening, but like, you know, we all have small instances or white lies or anything else. I think the broader question is really on the big stuff, on the stuff that matters. Will you put order into the universe? You know, we're in this phase right now where truth is being destroyed because everything has become so political, and politics is a game of manipulation, not a game of truth. So it's like nothing that this administration says is truthful. Nothing that anyone's telling us about lockdowns or science or anything else is truthful. So is omission in and of itself, is that a sin if we're taking it to that like religious level? I think we can all do the best we can within that. That would be, it would really be for you to figure out like what works for Stu, and you know, that, you know, if you've got a friend and they've got spinach in their tooth, you know, it's like, do you want to tell them at that very moment, like, I got to tell you the truth, man, right this second, but you don't want to do it in front of people and embarrass them, but otherwise they're being embarrassed anyway because they got spinach in their tooth. Like, we could do many versions of this, but I think in the best way that you can do it if you can do it, I agree with Jordan's premise that it will be the best outcome. And then that in and of itself, that is a leap of faith, which is really such a cool concept if you think about it.
It really is. It really is. I think we saw some of this with the pandemic. You mentioned it a little bit there. Early on, Anthony Fauci comes out and says, masks, we don't need masks, we don't need masks. And then, okay, now we do need them. And when asked later on, he said, well, at the time, there was a shortage and people at hospitals, that we didn't want people hoarding them, so people at hospitals could get them. I mean, he admitted that he just basically tried to manipulate the public by saying the opposite of what he believed to be true. We've seen this over and over and over again. I think we've seen it recently in the CDC. They all know vaccinated people should be able to go out and do basically whatever they want, right?
Of course.
And so, but they're saying the opposite, and it seems like the reason is they think if they say vaccinated people can do everything, unvaccinated people will go out and start doing everything and will have issues. But again, instead of being honest and truthful, they're trying to manipulate this for some better outcome.
So then when you look at that at the macro level, it's like, look what they've done to the truth, actually, by lying.
Yeah.
They've not only lied about the specific instances about whether you should wear masks or not, or, you know, when a ban from China happens, it's racist, but when a ban from India happens, it's somehow not racist. Right. Or we can't call it the China virus or the Wuhan flu, but we can call it the Brazil variant.
Yes.
Or something. Like, these insanely diametrically opposed ideas that they throw in front of us all the time. It's not only a lie in and of itself, but it's doing something much more dangerous, and I think that's really what Jordan's talking about, which is then the structure of the universe, basically, our ability to move forward now as a nation, going forward from now May of 2021, is damaged because so many of us no longer believe them. So, I mean, it's the boy who cried wolf. When they tell us the truth, and I suspect every now and again somebody accidentally at least tells the truth from these people. But Fauci may accidentally tell the truth, you know, every once in a while. He may just lose it, you know. Yeah. Like, in essence, you've damaged the brand of truth so much that we're not going to believe you. I mean, that's really how I feel at this point. Is there anything Fauci would tell me at this point that I would be like, you know what? That's a forthright guy. Sure, he maybe made a couple mistakes, and it's a tough job, and it's a pandemic, and there's a lot going on. But now I believe him. Well, I don't think we could get to that point, you know? What did George W. Bush say about fooling? Fool me once, fool me again, I'm not a fool, something like that?
So you're looking at the country over the past year, and Dave Rubin's putting a rating down. Did we do a good job handling this? Did we do a bad job handling this?
Pretty horrific, I would say. Pretty horrific. There are glimmers of goodness. I would say Ron DeSantis is the shining star in the hill of like, how do you do it right? How do you deal with this honestly while not destroying your state, while respecting liberty, while respecting people's choice, respecting the ability for us to live? I mean, you know, even if the pandemic was say 10 times worse than whatever it actually turned out to be, well, that doesn't necessarily, we should have a philosophical argument about, well, what would be the precautions that would be legit at that point? Like, it's not the government's job to just keep us safe and just keep us locked down like children. Like, life is about some risk. But we never had any of those discussions. It was sort of like 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And by the way, at 2 weeks to flatten the curve, we all did it. Everyone did it. I do not know one person, and I did not see virtually any pushback. Maybe from the most sort of anarchist kind of libertarian types, but everyone was washing their bags when they got home from supermarkets and wearing gloves. We all did it.
We did it I'd say the first 6 weeks. I mean, because remember they extended it for another month through April. And I mean, I remember in Texas they opened up to 25% capacity here in restaurants on May 1st, and we went. Going out to dinner was weird that first day. But like, people weren't like. I think people took that advice as about as close to heart as they could.
Right, so we did what they asked of us. Right. And then once we did what they asked of us, I think, you know, I don't mean this to sound conspiratorial, but I think that it's just the way humanity works. It's the way systems work. People in power then thought, well, what else could we get them to do? And let's see how long we can push this thing. And I remember in about April of 2020 or so it's over a year ago, April or May of 2020, I remember in California, they said, we're going to lock down till August 1st. And that was when I finally broke. I did it for the 6 weeks, whatever it was, didn't go out, barely walked my dog, like all the stuff, right? Yeah. I did all the stuff. But when they said that, when Gavin Newsom said, we're now shutting down till August 1st, I knew it was all nonsense. Because A, these arbitrary dates make no sense. Oh, Well, August 1st. Okay, well, why not July 30th or, like, just so it's an arbitrary date. But also, I knew at that point there's no way we're going to be open on August 1st. And clearly that isn't the case because California, as we sit here right now, is still not technically opening till June 15th. And we'll even see about that. And the even scarier part is the psychological damage that they've done to all of these people where they probably won't open up. The state maybe will open, but the people won't.
Yeah, we're seeing that, I think, the very early pieces of this, and you were in the liberal media, as we might say, for a while. You were the liberal
bring me
media.
on your show to insult me.
No. I think you have an interesting, you have a unique perspective as to that world that I don't have.
Yeah.
We saw like Rachel Maddow, for example, come out last night and just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to take my mask off. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see someone walking down the street without a mask and not think they're a bad person.
Her brain has been rewired.
Yeah.
Those are her words, not mine. She had her brain rewired. She should have had her brain rewired, but not because of COVID.
Not this way.
Yeah.
But like, there are a lot of people with a lot of goblins bouncing around in their head over this stuff, and it's going to take them a long time to get over it.
We may never get over it culturally and sort of holistically at a national level. I think, it's weird. Right now we really feel this thing where here I am in Dallas, Texas, and it feels very different than when I'm in Los Angeles, California. And that's a little scary at some level because we're used to being one nation, right? We're one nation under God. However, the founders set this place up to kind of be this way, right? Like this is what federalism is, that you're going to basically live in a state that should do most of the stuff related to your life in terms of taxation and all of these things. So in many ways, we're actually going back to our roots. It feels a little scary right now, and we still have problems related to that because if places like California fully go under, does someone here in Texas have any responsibility to a state that's completely mismanaged? I mean, we could have great debates about that. As a guy that lives in that blue state, I would prefer somebody to help, but I get why you wouldn't want to. I get why you wouldn't want to, and I get why once I move, I'm not going to want to do it too. But in some ways, the system actually is working right now. It's just hard to see. And I guess the parts that are working, say the Texas, Tennessee, Florida parts, there's not enough of them. There's just not enough of them working. And also, you're not seeing that on mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this weird two Americas thing going on right now. I mean, you obviously living in California are seeing this on that side, but we have visitors that come down, friends of mine from New York and Connecticut, and they can't understand what the society is down here. And I feel like it's long-term a real scarring thing for the country.
Yes.
And I don't think I'm not the type who's going to say it was completely, like it's not some crazy thing that there was real reason to have some, especially at the beginning, to be scared about this, and it did do a lot of damage. But like, I think of it almost like how like my grandparents and great-grandparents would talk about the Depression years, where they were just like scarred. Everything had to be saved. Everything had, they had that defining early life sort of change and never were we able to shake it for their entire existence. And I feel like there's a good chunk of this generation that's going to happen to.
Yes, and it's also a generation that unfortunately has been told that their perceived oppression, whatever it might be, whether it's their skin color or their sexuality or their gender, that somehow gives them virtue. So if you can then say, I was the most affected by this, I was suicidal during this, my grandma died and I couldn't do this and all those things. By the way, some of the things that happened were horrific, right? Yeah. Grandma's dying bad, young people dying bad. There weren't many young people that died, thankfully. But because we've told them in so many cases, whatever's wrong in the world is the thing that has the most value to you, they're not going to let go of this thing. And that is why Rachel Maddow seemed to me, as I watched the clip, she seemed like a crazy person. You're sitting in front of a camera telling people that your brain has been rewired and you're afraid of your common citizen who's not wearing a mask. To be quite honest, I'm more afraid of people wearing masks at this point because it says to me, well, either you don't follow the science or it's a year and a half later, and what else can they get you to do? How about we should all put clown noses on, right? Clown noses, because usually they're sort of, what is that? It's like a mushy, cushiony kind of thing. They're usually like a spongy thing. Well, if you put that on your nose, it seems like it would have something to do to help COVID.
Maybe,
wouldn't you say?
yeah.
So what if we get people in masks, but you can lower the mask weight, you get a clown nose, like it seems like that would help. Like the point is you could get these people to do anything. That's the test that we failed. What will they do next?
Oh, and you look through history, and when that thing turns on, when that part of the human brain allows that sort of disconnection from what's right and what's wrong, bad things tend to happen.
Yeah.
I will say, if you go to Dave Rubin's Twitter feed, you can see him citing examples all day today.
I'm on a real run today.
Leftism is a mental disorder.
Yeah.
Can people expect this this is a long-term thing where people can see you highlighting these moments?
So all I'm doing today is screen capping just like the latest leftist crazy nonsense, including Miss Maddow.
Yeah.
And I'm just writing leftism is a mental disorder. And they're all catching fire, which is great. And it's like, I don't know, I guess I could do this probably for the rest of my life because these people ain't going to stop. So it would be a different type of Twitter than people have become accustomed to me to, but
the thoughtful Dave Rubin, what everyone expect, is now going to be calling people, telling people
mental
they have a mental
patients.
disorder, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I will say you can do that for a while, but then eventually, of course, they will cancel your account and you will no longer be able to do it.
And I do like posting pictures of steak every now and again.
Yeah, so there you go. You have to do that too. Dave Rubin is the host of The Rubin Report right here on BlazeTV and author of Don't Burn This Book, Thinking for Yourself in the Age of Unreason, and that's definitely the age we're in. Dave, thanks for coming on, man.
Now we're in the age of insanity. So for the next print, I'm going to see if we can do that. Thanks, Stu. Good seeing you.
Thank you. Hi, Stu Bergier of Stu Does America here. Thanks so much for watching our video. Did you know you can watch our entire catalog for free right here on our channel? Subscribe now and be sure to hit the thumbs up button on all the episodes you watch because that's how they know you like this stupid show. And that little bell in the corner as well. Make sure you click that. You'll get notifications every time we post new content. Stu Does America every weekday at 8 p.m. Eastern right here.